When it comes to retirement, I used to frame it this way. Like, when you're in your 30s and your 40s, and you really don't do all you can. You don't max out on your 401ks, IRAs, or whatever for retirement. Older you is going to be really, really angry at younger you. You know? Seriously. And for those of us who believe that and have done all that we can, now you look at retirement in a few years and you wonder, am I going to be able to do this? Because we do talk about this increases in taxes and the inflation fighting and all that. You got to plan for it. So, yes, I am a happy camper client of Dan White and Associates, financial planners specializing in retirement income. And because we got the Phillies and the White Sox coming up in just a bit, usually we'll have someone from Dan White and Associates on at 1:30, but I called and said, all right, we got to get you guys on today at 1 because you always have great information for my listeners, and I love you guys for that. In the Middletown office, please welcome Dan Simon from Dan White and Associates. Dan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you today?
Doing okay. So you guys normally have a tip at 1:30. Thanks for calling in early before we bring you the White Sox. And by the way, do you realize how close we are to the Mets in the standings? Are you aware of this?
I'm following it closely. Yes,
yeah.
I am.
Yeah, because we're only like they're 62 and 46. We're 61 and 46. It is that tight for the National League East, and
There are a couple games of what I call bullpen blow it from sliding out of the rankings. So hopefully they continue the path they've been on.
I like the way you frame that. Thank you, sir. So, what's our big tip for today?
So I thought today we could talk about something that comes up in our office. I would say occasionally, and it's should I have a trust as my IRA beneficiary? So I wanted to talk about 7 times to consider whether or not a trust should serve as a beneficiary of your IRA. For most people that I see, the IRA, the 401k, it's usually their largest asset if their home is not.
Yeah.
So most people want to make sure they're diligent about, hey, God forbid I don't wake up tomorrow morning, where's this money going? And a lot of times the trust word comes up. So one thing I did want to clarify was that only individuals who are named on the IRA beneficiary form can be designated beneficiaries. A trust is not a person, so it cannot be a designated beneficiary. However, if the trust qualifies as a look-through trust, then its individual beneficiaries can qualify as designated beneficiaries for IRA distribution purposes. So it gets a little bit complicated, but the trust has to certainly apply, right? So look-through trust in most scenarios. The beneficiaries of the trusts who are beneficiaries with respect to the trust interest in the IRA owner's benefit must be identifiable, right? So there's got to be an interest, and it's going to be identifiable. But, you know, the main thing to consider, right, this is high level, but the main purpose of the trust is to control or protect post-death distributions from the inherited IRA. So again, it's more about control and it's more about protection of the distributions as opposed to taxes, which is always, hey, I want a trust to protect me from taxes, which in some cases it may, but in most cases it's really not. So if we talk about 7 times to consider whether the trust applies, the first 2 I think are pretty straightforward, but that would be when the beneficiary is a minor. So that's example number 1. Example number 2 would be if there's a special needs planning type situation. So with the Secure Act and Secure Act 2.0, there are provisions inside that law that allow special needs planning or a special needs beneficiary to bypass the 10-year rule and use the stretch method instead. So minor beneficiaries, special needs planning, a vulnerable beneficiary. So what do I mean by that, right? We all know there's bad actors in this country, around the world. And, you know, people aren't trying to steal small amounts of money. They're trying to take advantage of people with large amounts of money, right? So the goal is to protect individuals that are named as beneficiaries from quote-unquote predators out there. So vulnerable beneficiaries, creditor protection. So inherited IRAs are not protected under federal law, either in bankruptcy or other creditors. So there's some protection under certain state laws, but that can vary as well. But a trust can help shield the IRA funds from a beneficiary's creditor. So that's a big issue right there. Divorce, remarriage, blended families are all other examples. And then last but not least is estate planning. Be cognizant of the inheritance laws, the state in which you reside in. At the federal level, the exemption's so high now that it's really not going to impact like 99.9% of the people out there. But at the state level, it can have some implications. So there are situations where the trust may apply, like anything, whether it's tax advice, retirement planning advice, or estate planning advice. I would recommend sitting down with a reputable, knowledgeable, trusted estate planning attorney to determine whether or not the trust is necessary or even required for what you're trying to accomplish.
How about just have no will, no trust, no nothing, and let the kids fight it out? I understand they can make a lot of money in reality TV if they just sell it. They sell the family drama.
In that case, Rick, we take it back and allow your friends at the state that you were talking about earlier. They determine where your assets go, and based off the previous segment there, I don't think you necessarily want that to happen.
Oh, you got that feeling, did you?
I was listening.
How did you get that sense? Did I play my opinion hand there? Oh, my gosh. I can't believe you actually gleaned that.
What I heard was, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and then you mentioned something at polls well, and in my mind, I'm like, no, that's not what they're doing. They're robbing Peter to pay for the polls. But yeah,
I see what you did there.
That's not my expertise. That's way beyond my pay grade as to where the tax revenue goes.
Well done, Dan Simon, one of the brilliant financial planners specializing in retirement income at Dan White & Associates, danwhiteandassociates.com. It's a very, very long website because he adopted early and didn't know any better. But you can, but I tell you what, but everything else you guys do, great research. You're fantastic. And then on Sunday mornings at 7, you've got On the Money with Dan White as well, where he talks about, what kinds of things does he talk about, Dan?
Well, I know the last show was on the Big Beautiful Bill, and he covers everything that we discuss on a daily basis. And on the radio shows, I know he's going into more detail, than what we're usually talking about in person.
That's true, yeah.
But
so it's worthwhile.
It's worthwhile, worth tuning into. He's coming back from a week of vacation, so I'm sure it'll be a great show. All
right, my friend, Dan White & Associates, you can give Dan Simon a call in the Middletown office at 888-690-8820, 888-690-8820. You guys are great. Thanks so much, Dan.
All right, Rick, go Phils.